Welcome to SFI's English classes. Today we will be covering books of famous authors. So, पहली बात, why are these books important for us to cover? It's because in last year's CUET paper we have many books by certain authors and some popular novels as well. So it is important if all of us are familiar with some basic novels that do end up coming. We will begin with Jane Austen. I'm sure you all are familiar with her name. She was a woman writer writing in the Victorian times, and therefore her books are quite novel in that sense. She talks about the society of that time, and through her narration of different love stories, different stories, we also get an idea of that society. So some of her most popular novel, and a question that can come very easily, is her novel Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice essentially talks about the stories of 7 sisters and how their mother is very eager for all of them to get married, and how it is difficult for women in Victorian society to think about anything other than marriage at that time. That is all that preoccupies their mind. So it can also be considered a sort of feminist writing in that way, because Jane Austen's writing is quite witty and sarcastic, and we see that displayed in her works. Other important novels by Jane Austen are Sense and Sensibility, Emma, Mansfield Park, and Northanger Abbey. Sense and Sensibility are again about 3 sisters and their widowed mother who are forced to live in a separate place because of due to the unfortunate death of their father, and how these 3 women manage and all the different experiences that they have. Emma, Mansfield Park, and Northanger Abbey are the rest of the novels by Jane Austen. Another novel that she has written is Persuasion. Moving from Jane Austen, we come to Charlotte Brontë. Her writings are also very similar to Jane Austen. She also talks about the society. She also, through her writings, gives us a view of the society. Her most famous work is Jane Eyre. In Jane Eyre, we see the protagonist, who is an orphaned child, and how she is forced to become a governess in this family to sustain herself, because at that time most professions were not open to women, and she becomes a governess, and through that process ends up falling in love with Mr. Rochester, who is the man of the house at that time, and we basically see her story in Jane Eyre. Charlotte Brontë's sister, Emily Brontë, is also a notable writer. Her work, Wuthering Heights, is a Gothic masterpiece, many would call it, and it essentially, again, it's the tragic love story of Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff, and how the tragic love story affects the lives of all the people around them, and how so many lives are destroyed in the process. Then we have R.J. Salinger. Salinger is known for his cynical work. His most notable work would be Catcher in the Rye. Catcher in the Rye details the journey of a young adult or a teenager who runs away from his school. His name is Holden Caulfield, and he is an individual who's extremely nihilistic. He suffers from depression and other mental illness, and the book talks about the series of experiences that he goes through, and his experience of coming through the rye. That is, coming through the rye is sort of a metaphor for coming of age, and how coming of age in such a society sort of corrupts the individual and they lose their innocence. Another notable work of R.J. Salinger is Franny and Zoe. The 5th author that we have is Charles Dickens. I am sure you've all heard his name. Charles Dickens wrote works like Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, and Oliver Twist. All these tell us of times which were highly troubled, which there was a lot of conflict in these times, and his works detail those. Tale of Two Cities is his most notable work. Then we come to another very famous work, and that is Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is a social commentary essentially on the treatment of black people at that time, and it is the book is written through the view of Atticus's two children and how they see their father defending a black man in a trial, and how that is quite revolutionary in and of itself, despite the tragic ending to the novel. Then another work that is not very literary but more academic in its scope would be B.R. Ambedkar's Annihilation of Caste. Ambedkar talks about the mistreatment of Dalits and so-called lower castes, and he details the different aspects of the exploitative caste system. And the book also talks about Ambedkar's disagreements with Gandhi. For students of history, I'm sure you have read about this in your NCERT. Then another very important work that I'm sure everyone has heard is The Diary of Anne Frank. This is a real-life account of a young girl, Anne Frank, who was living during the times of Nazi Germany, and how she and her family were enclosed in a hidden home. And she details the months of those times. And this novel is very significant because it is through the eyes of a 13-year-old girl. So while she's living in a fascist regime, she also experiences everyday things that 13-year-olds do. And it is the curious mix of these two that makes the novel a must-read. Then we have Gabriel Garcia Marquez and his 100 Years of Solitude. Again, a novel that a lot of you must have heard about. Coming to popular fiction, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series is very significant, and it has shaped popular culture of our time to a large extent. We can name the books in the series. First we have, and I think this was a question that came in Jamia's entrance, asking what was the third or fourth book. So the books are Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, and The Deathly Hallows. So these are the ordering of the books. After J.K. Rowling, we have another classic, that is Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. Little Women tells the story of, it is very similar to Pride and Prejudice in a sense, and it tells the stories of these young girls and how they are struggling in their own lives and their own struggles. But also it has the playfulness of how these girls interact with each other, their sisterly love, and their stories of their own lovers and all. Coming to more contemporary works, we have Khalid Hosseini's Thousand Splendid Suns, which talks about turbulent times in Afghanistan, where we have the removal of the Russian forces that provided great education, that provided great progress to Afghani women, and also, in a sense, they protected the state to a certain degree. And the coming in of the Taliban that was implemented by the US, and how that led to the complete destruction of a country. And we know that this is quite relevant in our current times as well. Another great novel by Khalid Hosseini is The Kite Runner. And yeah, we then have at number 13 Marcus Zusak's Book Thief. Again, quite a significant novel of this time. Okay, then we come to more mystery or suspense related novels. Two are very notable in this aspect. That is, firstly, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes series. We have short stories as well as proper novels, and Sherlock Holmes is a detective who solves crimes through his very deep understanding of, his deep understanding of his surroundings, of the way things are supposed to be, and little inconsistencies that he finds. Another important author that comes in is Agatha Christie. She has written a series of novels under two. There are two characters in her novels that are extremely prominent. One is Hercule Poirot, and the other is Miss Marple. Agatha Christie's style differs from Arthur Conan Doyle's is because there is extreme emphasis given on the human psychology in Agatha Christie's novels. We find Hercule Poirot breaking down the characters of people, Marple doing the same. Christie has also written other novels under pseudonyms as well. So that is why that is important. Another work that is more academic than literary is Karl Marx Das Kapital. Talks about the means of production and how they're owned by a certain class. So these are the novels that we have covered today, and thank you.